Hey everybody, this is Timothy Gay back here again with another review, and today we're looking at Arcane Academy, a strategic game of tile linking wizardry, and it's by Mr. Eric Lang and Kevin Wilson. This is a cool little tile laying game where you're going to be gathering tiles, playing them on this board, and think of the tiles as your actions that you get to select for that turn. And you're going to use these actions on the tiles to try to complete assignments, which are these cards here. And the way you win is by victory points on the cards. So like at the end, that one's worth 2. So there's 2 different types of cards in the game. There's items and spells. And you're going to use these red ruby things to pay for items. And the cost of the card is here. So this would cost 4 of these rubies. And then you're going to pay for spells with will, so that would cost 7. And everybody gets one of these little will tracks. And at the beginning of the game, each person starts with 3 red and 3 of the will. And then they also have this blank board that they're going to do. I got this at Gen Con last year that had some upgraded tokens and some new cards and some new tiles. Just was a cool little, kind of like a promo pack thing, but it did get these cool exhaustion tokens. So what do you do on your turn? You're going to take one of these exhaustion tokens, you're going to look at your board, and you're going to say, I want to do this, and you'd put it on it. And that would be exhausted until you take a rest turn. So if I did that one, and it's pretty self-explanatory what the actions are, they're not complicated. This shows a picture of a tile. If you look at the back, it looks like that. So if I did that, I can pick from one of the 4 random tiles that's been dealt. This bag is full of all sorts of different tiles that have different things on them. So let's just say that was my first thing that I did. So I can look up here. This would give me an action that would give me 1 will, 1, I guess I should have looked at the what that's called, the red ruby thing we're going to call it. This would give you 2 will. This is a wild that you can do anything, so you could get 1 red, get 1 will, and then some other things I haven't got to yet. This would be the tile that would allow you to buy a card. Granted, you have the amount that's required, in your supplies here. Then there's also tiles that show a little wand on it like that, and what that does is it will activate cards that you've built in front of you that have the little symbol there. If you do that action, you get to pick one of your cards that has that symbol and do it. So these items stay out in front of you and are continuous. So once I bought that, it'll continuous. The spells, think of the spells as more like a one-time thing, and a lot of it is kind of messing with your opponent. There's a decent amount of interaction in this game, but it plays quick because the end game is once someone at the table has built 8 cards, doesn't matter if they're spells or items, they build 8 cards in front of them, and they will get this. It's called pencils down. And that means everybody at the table gets 1 more turn. So, looking at the cards, you can see there's cheaper ones, but you're probably only going to get 8 or 9 cards in front of you, so you want the ones with the big victory points, because that's the only way you win. You don't get points from things out here. You only get points from the cards. So just as an example, I want to show you how these tiles can interact with each other a little bit. So let's get a new tile. Let's say we want to get this. That would complete my entire turn, and say I'm just going to put it here. You have the option to cover up tiles that are already on the board, but you never will be able to move that tile. So that's locked in. So what you can see these little gray things, and what that does is it links these tiles. So say for example I had this also here. On my turn, I could choose to exhaust this tile, and so it's exhausted now. I would get to trigger that ability, but then anything that's linked to it and touching it, so it has to be touching one of the sides, you can activate it, but you don't have to put an exhaustion token. So I would do this one, and then I could also get a tile and also get a blue and a red, but I don't have to waste those tiles with exhaustion, so I can come back to those later. So what you really want to do, you really want to link these tiles up as best you can. That's a big chunk of the game because you're wanting to maximize your turns, because the rest turn is kind of, it's a wasted turn. So once you get a bunch of these out here, you're going to hit a point where, too many things are gone. So you'll say, I'll take a rest turn. And you would take all these off. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention, in addition to these open cards, you also have 3 secret ones in your hand. And so when you take a rest, you can, if you don't like one of these secret ones, you can trash it and get a new one. So you can have some, try to combo cards that are in your hand that no one else has access to, because you're not going to be able to count on these always being there. They're going to go pretty quick. But there's some really cool abilities on all these cards. You've got, different items like this one. When you activate it with that icon, you can discard a tile from your slate, which is your board, and place 1 prestige on this token. So it comes with some prestige tokens here that'll count as points at the end of the game. So say I discard, activate that, discard this maybe, and I get a point. So this would be worth 4 points at the end of the game. There's a whole ton of different tiles. Let's just look here. There's 2 brains. There's another one with the wand and cards. But this one has links to it, so you can link up. So overall, this is a really cool kind of combo building tile placement game. And like I said, think of your tile placement as setting up the actions that are going to be available just to you, because everyone else is going to have a completely different slate that they're building in front of them. I mean, you can go heavy spells and really mess with each other. Items are great because they're more of a continuous, like, this one, whenever any player rests, you gain a shard and a will. Oh, they're called shards. There you go. So anytime somebody takes a rest, where they remove all their exhaustion tokens, the black ones, including yourself, you gain a will and a shard. My wife destroyed me with this card. She kept, doing things and resting, and it was bad. But that's pretty much par for the course. There's all sorts of, there's a good chunk of cards here. I imagine if you played it a whole lot, there's some copies of cards you might get. You can start figuring out combos that you want to go after, which would be cool. So this is a game that would get better the more you play it. It's really easy. It says ages 12 and up. It's 2 to 4 players. It takes probably about a half an hour to 45 minutes. If you do 2 players, it's faster. It plays really well, 2-player. 3 players is cool. 4 players is cool. I mean, the chaos of 2 players pretty much stays the same as you go up the player count. You just can't depend on, if you see a tile on your turn that you want, you better take it, because it might not make it back around, because then there'll be new tiles come out. They replace. So definitely one to check out. I think it's pretty affordable, probably around the $30 range. Nice smaller size box. Very cool. Arcane Academy, I definitely recommend. It's very different for an Eric Lang game, and I think that probably came from the collaboration with Kevin Wilson, 2 genius designers that have a very good pedigree. So highly recommend. Go get it. Arcane Academy.